The day after my engagement, an unexpected wedding invitation from my high school deskmate. It popped up on my phone. Coincidentally, the wedding date clashed perfectly with my business trip schedule, so I promptly declined politely. But the other party wasn't ready to let it go. They started pestering me. Goozy, aren't you usually so capable? What's the matter? Now you don't even dare to come to my wedding? Immediately after, another message arrived. Well, I guess. Back then you chased Ryan for 3 whole years. She never agreed to be with you. Very soon, she become my wife. Finally, he didn't forget to add, whether it was back in high school or now, in front of me, you'll always just be a loser. Looking at this string of messages, I frowned deeply. I reached out and clicked on the wedding invitation. As soon as I saw the bride's photo on the invitation, it was shockingly the same face as my fiancée on my phone wallpaper. A perfect match. Staring at the familiar smile on Liu Ryan's wedding portrait, my body instantly froze. The woman I just got engaged to yesterday was planning to marry another man while I was away on a business trip. No wonder she had so eagerly offered to book my travel tickets this time. It turned out she just wanted to confirm my schedule. Just as I was about to confront Sue Ruffing, his provocative message arrived again. Goozy, did you know? Ryan gifted me a villa at Kushui Landing just for our wedding. Oh, I almost forgot. You probably haven't even heard of Kushui Landing, you country bumpkin. It's the most expensive neighborhood in Jing City. Any random villa there costs over 100 million. And that's not all. Every month, Ryan transfers me 200,000 as pocket money. Back in high school, I never realized Ryan turned out to be the daughter of a wealthy family. Goozy! Even if your grades were great in high school, even if the teachers liked you, what good does it do? You're still just a poor, struggling worker. Reading these messages, I was utterly stunned. If my guess was correct, the Kushui Landing villa he mentioned was the same wedding gift I gave to Liu Ryan. I never expected her to use it to please Sue Ruffing, and the so-called 200,000 pocket money was most likely transferred from the supplementary card I gave Liu Ryan. Thinking of this, I immediately replied to Sue Ruffing, I will attend on time. After sending the message, I exited the chat interface. The very next second, Liu Ryan's call came through. Darling, you're leaving on your business trip tomorrow. This time, you'll be away for over half a month. So I decided to personally cook some of your favorite dishes tonight. If I hadn't received Sue Ruffing's wedding invitation, I would have been delighted to hear this from Liu Ryan. But right now, all I felt was bitterness and the anger of being played. Hearing nothing from my end, the person on the other side of the call spoke again, sounding puzzled. Darling? Honey? Are you listening? I pressed my lips together, my tone carrying a hint of coldness. I suddenly don't feel like going on the business trip anymore. There was a moment of silence on the other end. Then Liu Ryan's voice rose sharply. Why don't you want to go? Didn't you say this collaboration is important? Honey, you can't just change your mind. I know you've been working so hard, but as a man, you need to prioritize your career. Her response shattered the last sliver of hope I had left. I clenched my fists, struggling to control my emotions. With an icy tone, I replied, I was joking. I still have work to do now. I'll get back to it. With that, without waiting for her response, I hung up the call. Liu Ryan and I were high school classmates. We've known each other for 10 years now. Just as Sue Ruffing had said, I did like her back in high school, but she was always distant, never truly close. After we got into college, we lost contact. Until last year, when she suddenly reached out to me and even confessed her feelings. She said she didn't accept my pursuit in high school because she was afraid it would affect her studies. Recently, she had finally gotten my new contact information from an old classmate. After so many years apart, I realized I didn't feel much for her anymore, so I directly rejected her over the phone. But she was relentless, pursuing me for nearly half a year. Then one day, a runaway motorcycle came hurtling toward me. It was Liu Ryan who suddenly appeared and pulled me away just in time, saving me from being hit. After that accident, I agreed to give us a chance. During the year we officially dated, she cared for me in every possible way. When I was busy with work and often skipped meals, she would, rain or shine, personally cook and deliver food to me every single day. Once, when I was hospitalized with an illness, she stayed by my side, tirelessly caring for me for an entire week. Her kindness was something I witnessed with my own eyes and kept in my heart. I genuinely believe that marrying such a devoted wife would be the greatest fortune of my life. That's why I proposed to her. I gifted her a luxury villa, intending to give her the life of a pampered, wealthy wife. But the wedding photos in that digital invitation made my belief seem laughable. It even made me start doubting Liu Ryan's true intentions when she suddenly reconnected with me last year. No matter what, I had to attend her wedding with Sue Ruffing. The day of my supposed business trip, I let Liu Ryan drive me to the airport and watched as I cleared security. But the moment she left the airport, I swiftly exited as well. I checked into the very hotel where Liu Ryan and Sue Ruffing were holding their wedding. On the wedding day, I walked into the banquet hall. At the entrance, there was a photo wall displaying pictures of Liu Ryan and Sue Ruffing. When I saw one particular photo of them in their high school uniforms, I realized they had already been together since high school. I closed my eyes briefly, and when I opened them again, all that remained in my gaze was cold indifference. As I contemplated how to expose Liu Ryan's true colors, Sue Ruffing, dressed sharply in his suit, entered, surrounded by a group of fawning high school classmates. "Brother Sue, you're incredible. Even our class's aloof goddess couldn't resist you. We've been classmates for 3 years, and I had no idea the goddess Liu was so rich. Brother Sue, marrying such a wealthy and beautiful wife. You've got nothing to worry about for the rest of your life. It's truly a case of different lives for different people. If anyone has good luck, it's definitely Brother Sue." Hearing their boot-licking, I couldn't help but sneer inwardly. Meanwhile, Sue Ruffing was grinning with unabashed pride. "We're all classmates here. If anyone faces any difficulties in the future, feel free to contact me. I'll help whenever I can." His words made the surrounding crowd flatter him even more enthusiastically. Suddenly, someone in the group spoke up. "Brother Sue, I heard that the goddess Liu's dowry included a priceless jade ruyi scepter. When are you going to show it to us and let us admire it?" Hearing this, my breath caught abruptly. That jade ruyi scepter had been passed from my grandmother to my mother, and before my mother passed away, she entrusted it to me, instructing me to gift it to my future wife. So when I decided to marry Liu Ryan, I gave her the jade ruyi as a token of love and commitment. I had clearly explained to her its deep significance, yet she still gave it away to Sue Ruffing. My tightly clenched fists creaked audibly, and the anger in my heart roared like a storm. Just as I was about to stride toward Sue Ruffing, someone by his side noticed me first. "Well, look who it is, Guzi. I thought you didn't have the guts to show up." "Guzi, that suit you're wearing looks pretty expensive. Don't tell me you rented it just to attend Brother Zoo's wedding?" Brother Zoo's the groom today, no matter how well-dressed you are. Liu Ryan won't even spare you a glance. A few high school classmates, whose names I could no longer recall, immediately started mocking me the moment they saw me. Their insults were clearly meant to amuse Sue Ruffing. Seeing his mood visibly improve, the others quickly joined in to ridicule me. "Guzi, it's been years, but you're still as vain as ever. That suit you rented today must have cost you quite a bit, huh? Was it really worth it? Goozy! I heard you're working as a salesperson at some small company now. So, what good are excellent grades, really? No wonder our class beauty back then didn't even want to spare you a glance. Brother Sue said when he sent you the invitation. You put on airs and said you were too busy. So what? Did you realize you could gain something from Brother Sue? And now you've come running over, all eager and early? That's why you're here so early, isn't it? Hearing their indiscriminate mockery and baseless accusations. My face turned cold, just as I was about to say something. The screen of my phone lit up in my hand. Sue Ruffing's sharp eyes caught sight of it immediately. He noticed the lock screen a photo of me and Liu Ryan together. His expression darkened instantly. He stormed up to me, grabbed my phone, and demanded, "Why the hell is your wallpaper a picture of you and my wife?" When he realized he wasn't seeing things, he furiously smashed my phone onto the ground. Then he grabbed me by the collar and swung a punch straight at my face. "Goozy! You bastard, are you screwing my wife?" I was wondering why Ryan kept refusing to move in with me. Turns out she's got you on the side. Huh? You're so fake and shameless. And you have the audacity to bring a photo of you and my wife to our wedding? What? Are you planning to replace me and take her for yourself? Sue Ruffing's words became increasingly irrational, and the punches landing on me grew more violent. I wanted to explain myself, but he gave me no chance at all. When his eyes caught sight of the Patek Philippe watch on my wrist, his rage shot up even further. Without hesitation, he yanked the watch off my wrist. "This watch, did you trick my wife into buying it for you too? Goozy! Let's see if I don't beat you to death today." As the crowd of onlookers grew larger, some worried that things would get out of hand and rushed to intervene. One of them stepped forward, pleading urgently, "Brother Sue, calm down. Everyone knows how deeply the goddess Liu loves you." But Sue Ruffing wasn't ready to stop. He picked up my phone, its screen already shattered from his earlier outburst. Forcing my fingerprint onto the sensor, he unlocked the phone and opened my photo gallery. Sure enough, he found numerous pictures of me and Liu Ryan together. One of them even showed me holding the Jade Rui scepter. Each of these photos made it painfully clear that my relationship with Liu Ryan was far from ordinary. The onlookers' gazes turned even more hostile and mocking. "Goozy! To think you were the star student, the teacher's favorite, but your character is utterly rotten. You seduced Brother Zoo's wife and still had the audacity to attend their wedding? You're absolutely disgusting. I bet this isn't the first dirty thing you've done. Brother Sue, even if you beat him to death today, it wouldn't be too much." Sue Ruffing pointed at my nose and cursed angrily. "I invited you out of respect for the fact that we were once deskmates. Who would have thought you'd try to steal my wife behind my back?" The verbal attacks came one after another, and someone even raised their phone to record, hurling insults and filming me at the same time. Gathering all my strength, I managed to get up from the ground. I glared at Sue Ruffing and sneered, "Sue Ruffing, you attacked me without even understanding the truth. I'm not going to let this slide. Now give my watch." Sue Ruffing laughed mockingly, as if my demand was the funniest thing he'd ever heard. "Goozy, you're not going to let it slide? I wasn't planning on letting you off the hook either. You seduced my wife, made her spend money to support you, and even came to my wedding to humiliate me. You shameless homewrecker. Did you know? My wife and I got legally married ages ago, not just this watch. Every penny she spent on you, I have the right to take back." Legally married? Liu Ryan and Sue Ruffing had already registered their marriage? At that moment, everything clicked. I finally understood why Liu Ryan always reacted so strangely whenever I brought up registering our marriage. Still unsatisfied, Sue Ruffing took my Patek Philippe watch worth over 5 million and smashed it violently onto the ground, watching the watch shatter into countless pieces. My thoughts finally snapped back to reality. That watch wasn't just worth over 5 million. It symbolized trust was now utterly destroyed by Sue Ruffing and Liu Ryan. What are you planning to use to compensate me for this? Compensate your mother. He spat the words venomously, and once again, Sue Ruffing bared his teeth and lunged at me. This time, he wasn't alone. A few of his close friends joined in, surrounding me completely. I was beaten to the ground by the group, unable to get up. Though the other onlookers didn't join in, they still spat at me, their phlegm landing on my face and body. The banquet hall was lively, bustling with people coming and going. But not a single person stepped forward to help me. At that moment, the physical pain couldn't compare to the ache in my heart. The woman I had dreamed of marrying, the one I cherished, had brought me to this humiliating and devastating point. Finally tired, Sue Ruffing stopped his assault. He crouched down, grabbed my collar again, and noticed the pendant hanging around my neck. Without a word, he tore it off. My pupils constricted sharply. That pendant was my mother's keepsake, her last gift to me. I couldn't let him destroy it. Sue Ruffing, give the pendant back to me. Hearing the urgency and desperation in my voice, he sneered. This pendant means a lot to you, huh? Give it back and I'll let bygones be bygones. Otherwise, I'll make you regret ever being born. Threaten me? You're not even worthy. As he said this, he let go of the pendant. It fell to the ground and shattered into 4 pieces. I reached out, trying to pick up the shattered remnants of the jade pendant. But Sue Ruffing stepped on the back of my hand, stopping me in my tracks. My eyes turned bloodshot. My fists clenched so tightly they cracked audibly. A searing hatred began to rise within me. When I was 7 years old, I had fallen gravely ill. The hospital issued multiple critical condition notices. Then, my mother walked 5 steps and bowed, knelt every 10 steps, all the way to Jing'an Temple on the outskirts of the city to pray for this pendant, said to bring peace and protection. It was only after that my condition started to improve. Though superstition might not be real, in my mother's eyes, this pendant was my lifeline. Before she passed away, she repeatedly urged me to never let the pendant leave my side. And now, I could only watch helplessly as it was smashed in front of me. Through tear-filled eyes, I seemed to see my mother's disappointed and worried gaze. But Sue Ruffing's mocking voice pierced through my daze. Look at you acting like this over a worthless trinket. A cheap little pendant, and you're so furious. With that, he lifted his foot from my hand and instead crushed the broken pendant underfoot. He curled his lips into a smirk, his gaze filled with provocation, and then a sharp sound followed. Crack! The pendant turned to powder, utterly beyond repair. I abruptly lifted my head. I stared at Sue Ruffing with unwavering, bloodshot eyes. Sue Ruffing, I won't let you off. I'll make you pay with your life. Perhaps it was the overwhelming grief and rage, but suddenly, a surge of strength erupted from deep within me. I leapt to my feet and threw a fierce punch at an unsuspecting Sue Ruffing. It was the most satisfying and yet the most painful punch I had ever delivered in my life. Blood gushed from his nose, staining his pristine white suit with crimson streaks. Damn it! You actually had the guts to hit Brother Sue? Since when did home wreckers get so brazen? Before Sue Ruffing could even speak, his lackeys kicked me to the ground with a heavy blow. Goozy, how could you be so vicious? Today is Brother Zoo's wedding day, and you hit him in the face? It's obvious you came here just to ruin his wedding. Bah! Go take a good look in the mirror. A freeloading loser like you. Daring to hit the rightful groom? Did you really think no one here would deal with you? Everyone surged forward again, everyone lunging at me. They aimed punches and kicks at my fallen body, beating me relentlessly. Blood trickled from my mouth and nose, and I lay on the ground, motionless. If today weren't Brother Zoo's big day, and we didn't want to bring bad luck, we would have beaten you to death. What a wretched, unlucky pest you are. Brother Zoo's bride must be about ready, makeup and gown perfect. Let's get the hotel security to throw this loser out right away. Don't let a scum like him ruin today's wedding. Soon, Sue Ruffing called the hotel security. When the security guards heard him accuse me of deliberately trying to disrupt the wedding, they didn't hesitate to roughly haul me off the ground. The pain coursing through my body left me powerless to resist, so I could only endure their violent handling. Sue Ruffing and his entourage followed closely behind the guards, watching gleefully as I was thrown out of the hotel doors. Sue Ruffing, you and all of you, just wait. I will make you all pay for this. Theft. Sue Ruffing chuckled dismissively. With just you? I'd like to see how you plan to bring me down. Before he could finish his sentence, a luxurious Bentley worth tens of millions pulled up at the hotel entrance. A sharp-eyed young man stepped out of the car and hurried toward me. When he saw my bruised and battered face, his expression darkened immediately. You dared to lay a hand on our President Gu? Prepared to face the full force of the law. Hearing the man's words, and seeing the luxury car he had arrived in, everyone's faces turned pale in an instant. Even Sue Ruffing froze on the spot, too stunned to move. For a moment, all kinds of gazes were cast upon me, but I could only barely lift my head to look at the man who had helped me sit up from the ground. It was none other than Tom Crossing, my company's top lawyer. Before coming to this wedding, I had already called Tom Crossing. I wasn't just here to expose Liu Ryan in person. I was here to reclaim everything I had given her. President Gu, are you all right? I've already called 120 for an ambulance and reported this to the police. They should be here soon. I nodded slowly, and the moment I saw Tom Crossing, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. But before I could fully exhale, the thunderous roar of engines filled the air as dozens of luxury sports cars screeched to a halt at the hotel entrance. I turned my head to look, and with just one glance, I knew these cars were all mine. There was only one person who had the access to take my prized collection out of the garage, Liu Ryan. As expected, when a bodyguard opened the door of the most expensive car, Liu Ryan stepped out gracefully, adorned in her wedding gown. Her stunning beauty and this dramatic entrance instantly drew everyone's attention. Brother Sue, your bride's entrance is absolutely epic. It's been years since I last saw the goddess Liu, and she's only gotten more gorgeous. Another day of envying Brother Sue. If I were Brother Sue, I'd probably wake up laughing from my dreams. No wonder even the lofty genius Guzi willingly. Listening to the envious whispers around him, Sue Ruffing felt the confidence that Tom Crossing had shattered moments ago returning in full force. He quickly ran toward Liu Ryan with a triumphant stride. The others followed closely behind Sue Ruffing, heading to Liu Ryan. Their movements perfectly blocked the view of Tom Crossing and me. Darling, you're finally here. I've been waiting for you for so long. Through the gaps in the crowd, I caught a glimpse of Liu Ryan's gaze, full of affection as she looked at Sue Ruffing. In over a year of being together, she had never looked at me with such eyes. In that moment, my suspicions were completely confirmed. She pursued me only because of my family's wealth and status. Hubby, what happened to your face? Why is there blood on your suit? Did someone hit you? Tell me. I won't let them get away with it. Perhaps worried about causing more trouble. Sue Ruffing chose not to mention my name. He simply replied nonchalantly, Wife, I'm fine. I just accidentally bumped into something. There's a spare suit in the lounge. I'll change into it in a bit, no problem. Liu Ryan tenderly caressed his face. Hubby, why are you so careless? I like you so much. It hurts me to see you get hurt. Her eyes brimmed with concern and affection. Even though I had already given up on Liu Ryan, hearing her say the words, I like you, still made my heart quiver ever so slightly. I suddenly realized she had never once told me she liked me. Brother Sue, sister-in-law, the wedding is about to start. Hurry up and go change your outfits. Save the sweet talk for after the wedding. We've got plenty of single people here, you know? Sister-in-law, we're all brother Zoo's good friends. Do you have any single girlfriends you can introduce to us? Yeah. Same classmates who had beaten and kicked me earlier were now crowded around Liu Ryan and Sue Ruffing, their faces full of flattering smiles. Liu Ryan responded to each of them warmly, as if I had completely ceased to exist in their world. The group, laughing and chatting, began escorting the couple back into the hotel. Just then, the sound of police sirens grew louder, stopping right next to the sports car Liu Ryan had driven. Who reported an assault here? Where's the injured party? It was me. Tong Crossing stepped forward from the back of the crowd. As soon as the police arrived, those who had attacked me began to look visibly uneasy, their gazes instinctively darting toward my bruised and battered face. When Liu Ryan saw Tong Crossing, she found him vaguely familiar, but she couldn't quite place him at the moment. So, she turned to Sue Ruffing beside her. Hubby, did you all hit someone? Sue Ruffing avoided Liu Ryan's questioning gaze, fearful that the truth would ruin everything, not wanting her to know that the person they had beaten was me. Guzi. He shrugged indifferently and said, just some random nobody who told him to shamelessly play the homewrecker. Darling, why don't you go rest in the lounge for a bit? Once I've dealt with this, I'll come find you. When Liu Ryan heard the words, homewrecker, her heart skipped a beat. For some reason, a sense of unease began creeping over her. Still, she followed Sue Ruffing's suggestion and said, all right, I'll head to the lounge and go over the schedule with the MC. Come find me as soon as you're done here. Go ahead, darling. With those words, and in front of everyone, Sue Ruffing kissed Liu Ryan. I knew he did it deliberately. An overt display of dominance meant to rub salt into my wounds, but my heart felt nothing. Utter indifference. Without even a ripple of emotion. Blushing, Liu Ryan lightly punched Sue Ruffing's chest, then turned and began heading toward the hotel. At that moment, Tong Xing's voice called out, Miss Liu, please wait. This matter involves you as well. Liu Ryan turned around, her gaze falling on me as Tong Crossing helped me to my feet. My face was swollen, bruised, and smeared with blood. If not examined closely, it was nearly impossible to recognize me. Besides, she was confident that I was out of town on a business trip, so she merely cast a fleeting glance in my direction before fixing her attention back on Tong Crossing. There was something about Tong Crossing that unsettled her deeply, but she forced herself to suppress the panic and unease in her heart. Feigning calm, she said, Who are you? How do you know me? And what does this have to do with me? Oh, I get it. You're just trying to use this as an opportunity to extort money, aren't you? Today is my wedding day. Name your price. As long as it's not too outrageous, I can pay you. At that moment, all she wanted was to quickly resolve the situation. Hearing Liu Ryan's words, I let out a cold laugh internally. She wanted to use the money I gave her to brush me off as if I were a beggar. How could such a ridiculous thing happen? What? Cat got your tongue? Are you planning to ask for an outrageous amount? I'm warning you. The police are still here watching. With that, Liu Ryan impatiently pulled a wad of red 100 yuan bills from her bag and threw them at me. There's at least 50,000 here. Take the money and leave. Otherwise, don't blame me if I call the bodyguards to throw you out. I laughed bitterly. The amount of money I had spent on her exceeded 500 million, and yet she thought she could dismiss me with a mere 50,000. I asked Tong Crossing for a wet wipe, and with trembling hands, slowly wiped the blood off my face. Tong Xing's gaze was sharp as a blade, his voice icy. Miss Liu, I am Tong Crossing, Chief Counsel of the Gu Group's legal department. At those words, the color drained from Liu Ryan's face instantly, and when she finally recognized my face, she nearly collapsed in fear. I stared at Liu Ryan, my tone as cold as the depths of winter. Liu Ryan, Should I congratulate you on your wedding, Liu Ryan? Goozy? How are you here? Aren't you? Liu Ryan's lips trembled, her entire body shaking uncontrollably. I smiled mockingly. You're wondering if I wasn't supposed to be on a business trip, right? Before Liu Ryan could respond, Su Ruffing had already pulled her into his arms. A gesture meant to assert his dominance. Sensing Liu Ryan's fear, he gently tried to reassure her with misplaced confidence. Ryan, darling, don't be afraid. I know you just made a mistake in a moment of weakness. It must have been that bastard Goozy who seduced you. Don't worry, I'm not angry at you. But from now on, you must promise me you'll never see Goozy again. The lackeys around Su Ruffing chimed in eagerly. Sister-in-law, we all know this is Goozy's fault. Don't worry. Brother Su loves you too much to ever blame you. Such a perfect wedding. And it's all ruined because of Goozy, that troublemaker. Goozy, take your money and your friend and get lost. Or else we'll call the police and report you for causing a disturbance. Exactly. Isn't this whole scene just about money anyway? You've got the money now. So hurry up and leave. I ignored their jeers, keeping my gaze fixed on Liu Ryan. Liu Ryan, does your husband know about our engagement 2 days ago? Using the money I gave you to please another man. You've really outdone yourself. The last few words slipped through clenched teeth, each syllable carrying the weight of the humiliation I endured today. At the root of it all was the woman standing in front of me. Liu Ryan realized that her lies could no longer hold up. Her eyes instantly turned red with tears. Azzi, darling, please, let me explain. At her words, not only the spectators watching the drama, but even Su Ruffing himself froze in shock. He began to doubt his ears, lowering his gaze to stare in disbelief at the woman in his arms. Ryan, are you out of your mind? Who are you calling darling? As he spoke, his glare turned venomous as he looked at me. Goozy, what the hell did you do to my wife? I'm warning you, this isn't over between us. But Liu Ryan pushed him away without hesitation and ran toward me, crying, Darling, I was wrong. Let's go home, okay? I'll explain everything properly when we get back. As she spoke, she reached out to grab my arm, only to be blocked by tongue crossing. Su Ruffing's face turned livid. He stormed forward, grabbing Liu Ryan's arm forcefully. Ryan, what's wrong with you? I'm your husband. Don't tell me you've really fallen for him? Liu Ryan shook off his hand with a sharp motion and snapped at him angrily. Let go of me. Look at you. This is all your fault. If it weren't for your insistence on holding this wedding, Azzi wouldn't have found out about any of this. And if Azzi refuses to forgive me, I swear I'll never let you off the hook. Hearing those words, Su Ruffing's confidence finally shattered, replaced by genuine panic. Ryan, I'm your legal husband. If you were just fooling around with him, fine, I could pretend it never happened. But you can't seriously fall for him. I watched the quarreling pair with detached indifference, a mocking smile curling at the corners of my lips. The situation had spiraled far beyond anyone's expectations. The onlookers, stunned into silence, didn't dare to even breathe loudly. Su Ruffing, stay away from me. Liu Ryan suddenly screamed at him, taking advantage of his momentary shock. She turned her pleading, tear-filled eyes back to me. Darling, I know I was wrong. Please let me explain. I let out a cold laugh. Explain? What's left to explain? Liu Ryan, when you suddenly sought me out, you already knew I was the sole heir to the Gu family fortune. The stunned silence among the crowd broke into murmurs of disbelief. No way! Did I hear that right? Goozy's Gu is actually that Gu? And the goddess Liu just called Goozy her husband? Didn't Su Ruffing always claim Goozy was just some poor guy? So the one with the money isn't Liu Ryan at all? It's Goozy? If that's true, then everything changes. This whole story is completely upside down. So Su Ruffing was actually the one being kept a homewrecker. Everyone's gazes instinctively turned toward Su Ruffing. His lips quivered, his face pale as a sheet. Yet he still tried to struggle for control. Darling, you're joking with me, right? That loser can't possibly be the president of the Goo Group. Didn't you tell me he was just some insurance salesman? Didn't you say you only loved me? You gave me a villa, money, and we even registered our marriage. How can you call him your husband? No, this isn't real. Liu Ryan, tell me it's not true. Tell me it's all fake. The more Su Ruffing spoke, the more frantic he became, the veins on his forehead bulging visibly. He reached out to grab Liu Ryan's shoulders, but she coldly dodged his touch. When Liu Ryan looked at him, the love in her eyes had completely disappeared. All that remained was coldness and disgust. Su Ruffing, listen carefully. You were nothing more than a fling to me. The one I truly love is Guzi. If it weren't for you, none of this mess would have happened today. All you ever do is screw things up. I should be saying this to you instead. We're getting divorced this afternoon. And from now on, you're never allowed to show up in front of me again. I knew she was saying all of this for my benefit, and I also knew that deep down, she didn't care about me at all. She was merely afraid that the wealth and luxury she had almost secured would vanish into thin air. After finishing her tirade against Su Ruffing, she turned to me, her tone suddenly as soft as silk, her tearful eyes filled with false sincerity. Darling, I was really just momentarily confused when I made those mistakes. Please forgive me this one time, okay? Though we'd only been together for just over a year. Liu Ryan knew exactly how to exploit my weakness for her pitiful demeanor. Every time she acted like this, I would do anything for her, even plucking stars from the sky if she asked. But now, I felt absolutely nothing in my heart. Seeing Liu Ryan lower herself so pathetically to appease me, Su Ruffing could no longer deceive himself. He collapsed to the ground in defeat. I let out a cold laugh, my gaze toward Liu Ryan void of any warmth. Is that so? Then why haven't you answered my question? Did you know my true identity from the start, and approach me deliberately because of it? Before I officially took over as the president of Goo Group, my identity had always been kept well hidden. When I assumed the position 6 months ago, Liu Ryan's shock at the announcement had seemed entirely genuine. But now, if I still believed she only discovered my identity at that time, I might as well step down from my position as president. Liu Ryan avoided meeting my eyes, but she couldn't summon the courage to admit the truth. Darling, please, listen to me. I truly didn't know your identity. Truly, darling, I swear to you, I promise I'll never see Su Ruffing again. With that, Liu Ryan knelt on the ground, clutching at my pant leg and begging for forgiveness. In her eyes, I saw nothing but fear, not a trace of love. She wasn't afraid of losing me. She was terrified of losing the status and wealth that were within her grasp. Liu Ryan, whatever's going on between you and Su Ruffing is your business as husband and wife. You don't need to make any promises to me. The only reason I called Tong Crossing here today was to reclaim everything I've given you. Hearing this, Liu Ryan collapsed completely, muttering incoherently, "No! This can't be happening! Aziz, you wouldn't be so heartless to me." But I couldn't even spare her another glance. Instead, I turned to Tong Crossing. Attorney Tong, I've already sent you the complete list of everything I gave to Liu Ryan. The rest is in your hands now. Tong Crossing nodded. Understood, President Gu. Liu Ryan suddenly screamed at me. Guzi, those were gifts you gave me. Even if we break up, you have no right to take them back. Before I could reply, Tong Crossing responded firmly on my behalf. Miss Liu, the items President Gu gave you were based on the premise of a genuine romantic relationship. But your actions constitute fraud under the pretense of marriage. You concealed the fact that you were married and defrauded President Gu of his assets. He has every right to reclaim everything he gave you. Moreover, most of the items in question were part of President Gu's betrothal gifts. I ignored Liu Ryan's cries and turned toward the police officers, who looked utterly dumbfounded. Officer, there are surveillance cameras in the hotel. Not only did Su Ruffing deliberately destroy my property, but he also orchestrated a group assault against me. I will not accept any mediation for this matter. I request a thorough and strict investigation. Hearing my words, the police snapped out of their stupor. Rest assured, Mr. Gu, we will take your case very seriously. Arrest everyone involved and bring them back to the station. The previously arrogant crowd now cowered in fear, too terrified to say a single word. Meanwhile, I followed the ambulance to the hospital for treatment. This entire fiasco had been caused by Su Ruffing. Now that my true identity had been exposed, the perpetrators, desperate to curry favor with me and absolve themselves, unanimously shifted the blame onto Su Ruffing. Despite this, each of them still faced a 1-month detention. As for Su Ruffing, he was sentenced to 6 months in custody and ordered to compensate me for the damages to my watch, phone, and emotional distress. The total amounted to 6 million. But even that 6 million wasn't the full extent of what he owed me. After Liu Ryan and I got together, she transferred a total of 50 million to Su Ruffing over time. All that money had been taken from me. Thus, Su Ruffing was also responsible for repaying that amount. But he had already squandered it all, leaving him unable to produce a single cent. He tried to turn to Liu Ryan for help, but she was barely able to protect herself. Desperate, Su Ruffing came looking for me once again. When he saw me, the arrogance he once carried had completely vanished. He dropped to his knees beside my hospital bed. Gu Zi, please, for the sake of our history as classmates, as deskmates, even, give me a break. I know I was wrong. I was deceived by Liu Ryan just like you were. I didn't know that money was yours. If I'd known, I wouldn't have dared touch a single penny of it. Besides, you're worth hundreds of billions. Surely, this 50 million is nothing to you. Please, just let me off the hook. If you give me this chance, I'd be willing to be your servant for life. Watching him sobbing on his knees, I felt no sympathy at all. Su Ruffing, if you hadn't destroyed the keepsake my mother left me, I might have considered letting this go. But now, don't even think about it. If you don't pay me back, then get ready to rot in prison. Su Ruffing's face turned ashen. I didn't know that pendant was your mother's keepsake. Unaware of the facts, I'm innocent. Gu Zi, please. I didn't want to hear another word from him. I signaled for the bodyguards to throw him out immediately. Just as Su Ruffing was being escorted away, Liu Ryan arrived. The two ran into each other right at the hospital door. Even from my hospital bed, I could clearly hear their dog-eat-dog argument in the hallway. Su Ruffing, this is all your fault. If it weren't for you, Ozzy wouldn't be so heartless toward me. You bastard. You have the audacity to blame me? If you hadn't pretended to be rich in front of me, do you think I would have married you, Dream On? Oh, really? Fine then, let's go finalize the divorce. You just want a divorce so you can beg for Gu Zi's forgiveness. In your dreams. Even if I die, I won't divorce you. And what you think Gu Zi would want you back after a divorce? He's filthy rich. The heir to the Gu family. Do you honestly believe he'd take back someone like you? A second-hand woman? Su Ruffing, I'll kill you. Their screaming escalated into a full-blown fight, echoing through the hospital halls with curses, scuffles, and the startled cries of medical staff. Someone must have called the police, because both of them were taken back to the station once again. This time, Su Ruffing couldn't use the excuse of gathering money to get himself released. He was immediately sent to the detention center. After being released from the police station, Liu Ryan tried to visit me at the hospital again, but by then I had already been discharged and gone home. So, she came to my house to find me. But the bodyguards wouldn't let her take even a single step closer to the villa. It wasn't until I recovered and returned to work that she finally found an opportunity to see me. In the underground parking lot of the GU Group headquarters, as I parked my car, Liu Ryan suddenly appeared and grabbed my hand. "Darling, please forgive me. I know I was wrong. I truly was just momentarily confused when I made those mistakes." I pulled my hand back immediately, casting a cold glance at her. Momentarily confused? Liu Ryan, if I remember correctly, you've been with Sue Ruffing since high school. You've already deceived me once. Do you think I'd let you fool me again? Her lips trembled slightly, and it took her a long time to muster the courage to speak again. "Guzi, I've already returned the houses and jewelry you gave me, every last one. The rest of the money, I've spent it all. For the sake of the love we once had. Can't you just let it go?" I let out a sarcastic laugh. "Love? Liu Ryan, a woman like you isn't even worthy of speaking that word." With that, I turned and walked away without looking back. No matter how desperately she called after me, I never turned around. To escape her harassment once and for all, I decided to move up my plans to transfer to the overseas branch. 6 months later, when I returned from abroad, I learned that both Liu Ryan and Sue Ruffing had been blacklisted as debt defaulters. The same people who once surrounded them with flattery now avoided them like the plague. When I heard this, I felt nothing at all. After all, they no longer had anything to do with me. The end.